think it's terrific that today we can hear from the City Science Lab in Hamburg. I mean, one of our longest collaborators, going back almost 10 years, and they've just done some amazing work. I'm so proud of how Gesa has built up, and the team has built this lab up to, you know, really have tremendous impact. Now they're moving into work in Africa, and we're looking forward to visiting Africa and talking about possibilities there in, when are we doing that? In July, I guess. Yeah. So that's great. So anyway, let me turn it over to you, Gesa, and so you can give us an update.
Hi to all of you. Hi, Kent, and all our MIT folks. I'm so happy to see you all. And it's very exciting this year. Indeed, Kent, we are going to meet in Nairobi soon. And finally, we really start to do a project together again after a little longer time of working a bit more in parallel. And I also wanted to say, for me, as a kind of preface, I remember when we were in the last City Science Summit, we talked about this lab hopping and working more across the City Science Labs. And this year, it really will happen for me, because I'm going to go to Toronto next week to meet Hussein in the City Science Lab in Toronto. I come also to Boston for one night to see all of you. I'm happy. Then we're going to go to Guadalajara in autumn, because with the UN, we are doing a project also in Mexico, and we are arranging at the moment with Mayra some events in Guadalajara, which is great. And then also Lou asked me to be in a board of one of his new design journals. And I confirmed, so I will probably also go to Shanghai and meet Lou in the City Science Lab over there. And then there's Andorra, the celebration of the 10th anniversary. So I will really hop to all the City Science Lab this year, and I'm very happy to do that.
That's just so fantastic, Gesa. I'm so glad to hear that. That's
yeah.
So
there's a lot going on behind the scenes. That's what I wanted to say.
Yes.
And then, and now we have, thank you for giving us the opportunity to present our work. There are different team members here in the call. The idea was to present DIPAS a bit. This is this digital participation platform. You all know that, but we have a new team working on that. It's Marta. She is here in the call, because usually we are quite good at like data, but sometimes our UX design is not good enough. Our storytelling can be improved, and Marta is our first UX designer that we have in our team, and she works on storytelling and how to make DIPAS again more accessible for people. So she will present. And then there is the Namibia team and also the Ukraine team here in the call, because we, as you all know, we work with the United Nations and we have very international projects. And they are going to present the two projects. And then did I miss a project? Is there another one that we wanted to present? No, that's it, huh? Okay. So then I'm handing over to you. I think Marta, you will start, right?
I will just jump in shortly.
Okay. Dora with the Namibia project.
Yes. Also, welcome from my side, everyone. Thanks, Gesa, for the short intro. And also thanks, Kent and Maggie, for setting up these calls. I think this is a really good opportunity to discuss our work. Can you just please give me a thumbs up if you see my screen shared?
That's good.
All right. So, as Gesa already mentioned, today it's going to be a bit of a two-in-one presentation, because apart from City Science Lab Hamburg presenting, UNITAC will also present two projects. And just for you who haven't met us yet, we are sitting here in Hamburg at the Hafen City University, and we are working together, have regular knowledge exchange, and sometimes the tools that are developed in the City Science Lab are further developed within our UNITAC projects. And here you can see a photo of our summer party from last year. So we are a really great community together. Talking about today, so we will present 3 different projects, and the concept for this is the following: that first Marta will talk about DIPAS, which, as Gesa already mentioned, it was originally developed in the city of Hamburg, and then it was deployed in several other cities. And currently, Mata is working on the further development of this existing tool. Then the second tool that will be presented is COSI, which is a short for Corporate Social Infrastructure. This is also a tool which was originally developed with the city of Hamburg. But here we will be presenting a different use case, how it's currently being adopted to the context of Ukraine in our project. And lastly, we will discuss our third project in Namibia, which is about data-driven approaches and innovative solutions. And yes, without further ado, I will pass it to Mata.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad to be here. This is Mata, and I'm the UX UI designer on the DIPAS project. DIPAS is the digital participation system in Hamburg, and it's been developed in collaboration with the city of Hamburg. And I'm just going to give you like a short overview of DIPAS itself and the extension of the tool that we've been currently working on. As I mentioned, DIPAS is a citizen engagement and participation tool. And with DIPAS, citizens can put anonymous comments and contributions for different projects running in the city while interacting with maps, aerial photos, 3D models. And these contributions are highly vital for city planners, and they use it as part of their decision-making process. As you can see with the picture at the left, there are different elements in the DIPAS ecosystem. So we have the digital platform itself, which can be used from anywhere, anytime by citizens with their phone, tablets, laptops, and we also DIPAS can be used in on-site events. So if there's a field work, if there's public events, DIPAS can be used with a touch table or tablets as well. And this is because we believe that DIPAS is a complementary tool to the existing process in the city. And this can, feedback can be gathered on site as well. And we have the DIPAS Navigator, where you can see all the projects deploying DIPAS in the city, what stage they're in, and you can see some reports from their outcomes. And we can go to the next slide. Yeah, as of now, we have 119 projects that have been deployed DIPAS in Hamburg only, and we have more than 36,000 contributions gathered. And as I mentioned, these contributions are invaluable, but unstructured. So this makes it really difficult for the project admins to go through them one by one. And when creating the contributions, users are asked to assign a category to their contribution. But as you can imagine, they assign one category, but there's so many different topics being mentioned at once. And while this is normal, this makes the analysis project pretty time consuming. So next slide, please. So that being said, we are now working on the extension of DIPAS called DIPAS Analytics. This tool will be equipped with natural language processing models and will assist planners with structuring and analyzing the data. This is again not to replace the planners, but assist them throughout their process. And the review and evaluation of the contributions remains crucial to be done by the experts. And I think it's important to state, because now AI, natural language processing models, are a huge trend. We're following the current AI governance guidelines, since this tool is going to be used in public authorities, and we explore all potential technical, non-technical risk that such a tool would bring. And it is set to be published by mid-2025 as an open source platform for cities and municipalities. I'm going to give like a short, pretty basic overview of how the backend would work. So for each project, we have sometimes thousands of contributions. We'll do pre-processing on them. So everything will be set at sentence level. Then we'll label these sentences into 3 different categories. So or clusters. If it's an idea, if it's criticism, if it's a question. So this helps, and all of this is based on interviews from actual city planners. So this is how they do this process now. So just to omit the learning curve, we're really basing everything on what the user actually needs. So when going to the system, they can see ideas about a certain neighborhood in Hamburg and really like being inspired by what the citizens actually want. So first we have that. All the sentences are based into these big clusters. Then next slide, please. For each of those label groups, we sort them by category. So if in the idea cluster, we sort it by category, and each category will then be clustered into under categories. So in a real scenario, you could say there's ideas about green space, and then from green space, the under category would be something like, I don't know, something about green space, like more parks in different neighborhoods. Then moving into my part in the project, as the UX UI designer, I stand for and I believe in an iterative design approach and user research, and especially while creating a new tool. And I design while being consistent with the DIPAS ecosystem. So because this tool set is going to be part of the this whole realm of DIPAS that we already have. And therefore, I follow the design thinking methodology, as you can see on the chart on the right. And like this, design thinking calls for regular engagements with all stakeholders, being the city planners, the backend developers, and project managers, and so on. And we start with the empathy and defining the scope of the project with and a bit of a competitive analysis to see what everyone else is doing at the moment. Then we move to creating low fidelity wireframes and lots of ideation sessions. Then we create high fidelity prototypes to test with the planners and the target audience. And this goes on and on. We're currently testing our prototype. And next slide, please. Just some pictures from a recent workshop we had. So it's we had some remote one-on-one testing, usability testing with the city planners, and this is with the stakeholders as a focus group setting. And next slide. This is like one iteration of the design that we had. So from really low fidelity wireframes, which were sometimes even hand-drawn, we have this. Oh. Sorry. This high fidelity prototypes that we're currently testing, and the project is still ongoing. So hopefully we'll have I'll have more to show in the future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mata. The next project is our project in Ukraine, which will be presented by Anya and Mert. Maybe before starting with the presentation, you can just quickly introduce yourself.
Perfect. Yes, thanks a lot for having us. We are jumping now to our two long-term projects that we have funded by in German Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And the first one, where I'm and Mert are working at, it's a project in Ukraine. It calls Digital Tools and Capacity for Inclusive, Smart, and Resilient Urban Recovery. And my name is Anya. And so I will give you a very general introduction where we are in the project right now and the context, what are we doing, and then Mert will lead you through how we use COSI in Ukraine. So our objectives for Ukrainian project is we want to use the digital tools that we already developed with City Science Lab, but also we are planning maybe to introduce new tools if there is a need, and if we see from our partners there is a need for new tool. And with this tool, we want to strengthen current spatial planning processes in Ukraine, and of course, to enhance and to make the recovery faster, more efficient, and of course, based on the people's need. And also another objective that we have on the project, so the project is until 2025, and when the project is gone and when we are done. Ideally, we want to give the knowledge also to the municipalities we are working at. So the tools that we are developing together, when we are not in Ukraine anymore, they can use them on their own and they basically don't need us anymore. So we want to pass the knowledge. And with that, also we are collaborating with another project from UN in Ukraine called Urban Lab. And they are more on urban planning perspective. And together with them, we are supporting governments on different levels in recovery programs. And these programs are based on these human-centered smart cities. Next slide. Yeah, so as I told, this is funding from BMC and we are a split team. So we have some team members working in Hamburg, but we also have a team in Kiev, in local team, and the project is for 3 years. So now we are almost in the half term. And so far we have 3 pilot municipalities we are working with. They are on a different stage of work. We all started last year with Makariv, really intense. And right now we are starting the process with Drohobych in Lviv Oblast and with Kamyanets-Podilsk in Khmelnytsky region. But also we are working with regional governments and with national government as well. But our main focus are the local municipalities. And back. And yeah, we are also developing the capacity building program, as I say, is one of our objectives. So we are going like two strings. We are wanting to develop a capacity building for the municipalities to use the tools. And for this, we are having technical needs assessment of the government. So to understand what do they need and what we can give them in order to be able to operate with the tools. But also on the more like sustainable way approach, we want to also work more, and we are doing more with academia, Ukrainian academia, to bring this topic of digital urban science, digital urban data in this academia, because it's also very important for the upcoming generation who will rebuild. And of course, we are also cooperating, working, having meetings with local businesses and NGOs. And one concrete thing that we already had recently is our very successful cooperation with Kiev School of Economics. It's a private university in Kiev, and they have a new master program called Urban Studies and Post-War Reconstruction, which started last year. And we conducted an elective course on urban data science and quantitative methods, and it was quite successful. Almost all of the students from the program took the course, and we are going to continue working with them. So this is more like on the general part, and with that I give word to Mert, and he will bring you through the COSI.
Thank you, Anja. So my name is Matt, and I'm an urban planner and designer by background and specialized in GIS. I work for City Science Lab, but also for UNITAC. And that being said, so COSI. So COSI, as Marta explained, DIPAS, which is a similar platform that the base is the same. It's developed on Master Portal that was developed in City Science Lab with the city of Hamburg. It works on a browser, and it's an open source tool. So the COSI creates digital analysis, and it's kind of like supports the planning process. So what it does is that it creates evidence-based decision making. It supports evidence-based decision making. It transforms the complex urban data. So this urban data could be statistical data and geospatial data into clear visualizations. So you can think of the tool as a WebGIS tool, advanced WebGIS tool. Yeah, so it overall helps decision makers quickly decide on things, because you would all know in the field of urban planning, when decision makers are coming onto a table, when they are deciding on a thing, either they use reports which were built with earlier data sets, so it's not time bound. It could be not existing data anymore on the real field. So here on COSI, they can quickly visualize the data set, and then they can decide on seeing the data. And maybe another thing also, it's like normally there are tools, softwares like ArcGIS, QGIS, but experts needs to use these tools to further analyze, and then this kind of like helps it. It's very intuitive, easy, so that anyone with a basic knowledge can use the tool to decide on things. And that's why we are now utilizing this in Ukraine, because we realized we did a lot of like need-based assessments, and as Anja explained, we try to assess the needs and capacity of the municipalities. So this is somehow like a suitable tool for hromadas. Hromadas are urban municipalities, local municipalities. Yeah, so the tool is developed in City Science Lab with the AGFA, which is Agency for Geoinformation and Surveying Hamburg. And now with UNITAC, we are upscaling it to Ukraine. So you see the screenshots from the tool. So as I said, it is working on a browser, but we mainly in Hamburg now use it on touch tables. Maybe some of you, as you came to Hamburg office, you saw it. Could you please, Anja or Marina, next slide? So I did a bit of screenshots from the tool because the tool right now we upscaled it, but it is not fully functioning. So it's we realize that it is a long process that it or like longer than what we expected to really that the tool functions properly as it does in Hamburg, because we realized that there's no data, or the data that we kind of requested in our use case, which was Makariv. So here, what you see is that different features of the tool. As I mentioned, COSI has three functions. One is data visualization, geospatial and statistical data, and another is analysis. This could be different accessibility analysis, reachability analysis, population analysis, and also we can transfer the data, human-centered data from DIPAS into COSI as well, and visualize that kind of that data sets too. Yeah, so these are the analysis parts, and then we can create scenarios. So it doesn't only analyze the current status, but it helps us to visualize on a spatial manner and create scenarios. So next slide, please. Yeah, coming to Makariv case. So this was our first Ramada. We had several preliminary workshops with them, and then one discovery workshop. This discovery workshop was to identify a use case that we are going to further analyze or adapt COSI to Makariv case. So the topics were on housing, public services, infrastructure, and environment. So we asked several questions to municipality on these topics to identify their opportunity or problem. And after identifying those opportunities, we created use cases. So those use cases coming from, again, needs of the Hromada, civil protection. So in terms of we get coordinates and the capacities of early warning systems and shelters, and public spaces. So the second use case was accessibility of public spaces, and healthcare facilities, so different hospitals and clinics and pharmacies and so on. So we received so much data sets on this. And the fourth one was the waste management. That was a bit tricky, so we gave it to another workshop. So we focused on these 3 use cases, and how this was that after we had our workshop, we created data requests, and we received those data on a Word format. So it was not georeferenced. Our colleagues from the data scientist team pre-processed the data, and we upload the file, the data sets onto COSI, and then now we have semi-function COSI for Ukraine, which then we presented our findings to the municipality, and then it is an iterative process that we are still working on it to improve the tool. So that's kind of like whole package. That's where we are standing now, and maybe additionally, we are with this data standardization part, we are trying not only to develop COSI or DIPAS or apply those tools to within this project to our pilot cities, but we also try to create a data infrastructure so that can back COSI and other tools. Thank you.
All right, so here comes our last project presentation today, which is about digital solutions for more resilient urban areas. And this is about our project in Namibia. So the overall objective of our project is to build digital and data capacity of the national and local governments to support urban decision-making. And yes, the general objective of our project is quite broad, and within this we had the opportunity to narrow it down and discuss what are the specific needs with our partners, the local towns, town councils, and other stakeholders that we have. But this was the starting point with them, basically. I will not talk too much about our work packages, but it's not the most exciting part, I think. But just so you can see these different work streams that we have and the topics that we tackle within our project. So we also discuss data governance, not only developing tools, but we are also developing the data platform within our project, as well as local interventions with our partner towns that I will introduce in a few seconds. And lastly, we are also providing training. So we are trying to build capacities with our partners. So as you can see, because this slide already came in the Ukraine project as well, there are some parallels because we are both funded by BMZ. And in the case of our project, it's a similar setup that we have a team here in Hamburg, coordination and data scientists, but we are also having colleagues on the ground in Namibia, also on the side of project management as well as data scientists. And we are in the coming weeks also onboarding developers and a new data scientist for our team. And here on the right side, you can also see the map, who are the different partner towns that we are working with. So we have 4 towns, Rehoboth in the middle of the country, and Helonafili, Opuvo, and Rundu in the north, close to the border with Angola. And lastly, our 5th partner city is the city of Windhoek. In our collaboration with our partners, we are following design thinking process and methodology. And this is also kind of a timeline which is showing where we are currently standing with our project. So right now we are in the middle, so in this ideation phase. Last year, we spent most of the year with understanding the situation, understanding our stakeholders, the people, so with empathizing and with defining the problem statements that we would like to address with our partners. And currently, we are in the state of ideation and soon entering prototyping. A few weeks ago, we went to our 2nd visit in Namibia, and we hosted ideation workshops with various towns that we are working with, which also gave us guidance for the next development phase. when I was showing you what are the different work streams of our project, I was mentioning training, which is also a very important part of our work. And this is also something that we started implementing while we were on our second visit a couple of weeks ago, because we realized that when it comes to topics of data management or data governance, even within our team, very often we don't have the same understanding, right? Everyone has kind of a different concept what this would mean. And then we also realized that, okay, of course, our partners also have different levels of understanding of or ideas. So we decided to host a data governance training and workshop, basically to develop this shared understanding, because this was also very important to then support the ideation workshops, right? So that to avoid misunderstanding, miscommunication, and so on. And yeah, here on the right side, you can see an image from one of our workshops in Rehoboth. And this word cloud I just included because we had some interactive sessions where we were asking our participants different questions. Here, in this case, the question was, who do you think should do data governance? So everyone could, submit their very specific roles or ideas who should be doing this. And it was really nice to see that by the end of these discussions, people arrived to the conclusion that it should be everyone to some extent, that this is also something where I can contribute or I should be aware of. So this is what I meant with this shared understanding, which is very important in our case. And yeah, as I mentioned, we were organizing ideation workshops to come down to one problem statement and specify what kind of digital solutions we would like to develop in the following 1.5 year of the project. And here, I mean, the quality of the pictures are not the best, but I really wanted to show this to you because here you can see the process, how we listed all sorts of different ideas from climate resilience related topics such as water metering to other more business related topics like the registration of businesses or informal businesses within town. And these were all discussed in our workshops with colleagues from the partner towns, representatives of the council. And then after listing and discussing all these potential topics, people could vote basically like what they would like to focus on. So what is their preferred topic, but they could also put a red sticker if they felt that this should not be our priority for whatever reason. So this was how we managed to narrow down what are the actual needs. And this was also very useful and important to us because we have been discussing these kind of problem statements in the past few months with our partner towns, but our interactions were mostly limited to online calls. And then we realized in these ideation workshops how important it is to discuss these problems involving everyone in the room and also to give the opportunity to everyone to express their opinions, because we also realized that we had some assumptions, so they were also proved to be not true in the end. So this gave us definitely a good redirection for our project. And lastly, one of our main conclusions from this phase, this ideation phase, regarding the local interventions was that it's our core principle to meet our partners where they are at. We had to realize that some of our partners, when it comes to data maturity, might be at different levels. So what we decided to do is to support them maybe first with fundamental data needs. So when it comes to data management practices, data collection, maybe optimizing their already existing business processes with the digital solution, and this way help them to come up with more innovative solutions in the long run. So this is regarding our local interventions with our partner towns. And I also just wanted to quickly say a few words about our other types of collaboration with other stakeholders. So this is our work together with the GIZ, which is the German Agency for International Cooperation, if I'm correct, who are present with another project, this Inclusive and Sustainable Urban Development Project, in the same partner towns as us. Actually, their project has already started years ago, so currently they are in the second phase. And they did several data collection, and currently we are supporting them in looking into this data, seeing how the data collection process could be optimized in the future, helping them cleaning this data and seeing how it could be used for further analysis. So this is also a very interesting process, and this can also be then something which is actually beneficial, not only for GIZ, but also the partner towns that we are working with, of course. So this is more on the project management side, but I think in the next slides, Yumi will talk more about the technical development part, also including ISUD. So she will tell more details about that.
Thank you, Dora. Hi, everyone. Nice meeting you. I'm Yuming. I work as a data scientist in the UNITAC Namibia team since this year. And I think due to time that we need some time for a Q&A session, I will give a short introduction to 2 examples of the data solutions that we provide within the project. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the first one is a spatial data infrastructure that we drafted to build. As Dora introduced, that during the inception phase, we have collected a lot of different demand and did assessment of the technical readiness and the infrastructure of our different stakeholders. And from there, we see that there are some essential components that they can all benefit from. So we want to build a spatial data infrastructure that starts with some core modules. For example, database and data catalog and map servers, that from there we can make it a pluggable module that we can add more elements into it, and we make it cloud agnostic for deployment due to different technical infrastructure in different town partners and different ministries in Namibia context. And now we are already working on some of the core components of putting them together. And since we started the implementation phase, we will add more elements into it. And we are always aiming for looking for open source solutions for sustainability and for portability. Next slide, please. And the second example is also, as Dora mentioned, we are working with GIZ, the German Agency for International Cooperation, and this ISUD project have been going on for a while, and GIZ also did a lot in terms of engagement with communities and data collections, but they do need support technical-wise in exploring the data that they've collected and making decisions that are backed by analysis or modules, for example. And here, the survey they've done, it's from recent 3 years, and they did asked extensive questions for, involving more than 2,000 households about demographic questions and marriage status, where do they collect water, and their access to basic infrastructures. The questions also differ in terms of the context, that as in the map, some town is in the border, so there are trade and economic questions being asked due to the bordering with Angola, and also for towns that have severe water supply problems. So there are also questions specific directed to that direction. And next slide, please. Thank you. So they've created shapefiles on the areas that they are working in, and the areas they conducted the survey. And in the survey, there exists such information of generally the structure number for the ones that are not formally registered to have an earth number. So we map this structure number information in the survey with the shapefiles that they've collected with the geospatial information, so that we can provide a visualization based on the survey information, and they can select the layers and the columns they are interested in for clustering or categorization or further exploration on their side in the interactive map. Next slide, please. Yeah, and also based on the extensive survey in the designated areas, there are also statistics extracted from there that they use as the base for their groundwork. For example, the basic gender ratio and marriage status, etc., etc. And but it's, for example, in a spreadsheet and in a very scattered way of tables in different formats. So we would also support them to serialize this information and put them into a database so that in the future, if the survey is conducted again, these key indicators can be easily updated and we can monitor the change of the demographic in certain areas. And next slide, please. And also there are other open source projects that we would like to apply in the Namibia context. For example, there is the STEEP LNA Africa project from the Swiss Data Center, Science Center, that they use deep learning to map informal settlement and to monitor the temporal change of the border or the size of the informal settlements in metropolitan in sub-Saharan cities. And also UN Habitat has Earth observation tools that's also working on this. And one distinction or one characteristics of informal settlements in Namibia is that they have much lower density and the size of the shacks are also much smaller. So in order to apply those tools, we also needed adaptations and to validate the outcome of the predicted probability of the model, we can also use the shapefiles that GIZ had collected to construct the measurement for performance. Yeah, I think that's it from my side. Handing back to Dora.
Thanks, Yiming. I think now it is time for questions. I will just stop screen sharing. And yeah, thank you very much, everyone who presented. Please, if you have any questions, just raise your hand or just jump in. Otherwise, even I have some questions to Marta, but I would like to give the opportunity to the others.
Well, maybe I could start with a question. So it's probably mostly for the DIPAS project, but also for the others. So in-person community engagement platforms and online platforms, they have their strengths and their weaknesses. You know, online tools can reach a lot more people and hear from diverse perspectives, but they also can create echo chambers and increase polarization and all kinds of bad behavior you see online, where these in-person sessions, like we did with the Finding Places project, has the potential of, you know, reaching, increasing trust and fostering deeper connections and, you know, and reaching maybe a consensus more effectively. I wonder if you could speak to the possibility of how you might combine the best of both online and in-person tools, where the online tools might be used to start conversations and gather input and build awareness, and then the in-person meetings could provide opportunities for richer relationships and consensus building.
Thanks, Kent. Marta, would you like to respond first from the DIPAS point of view?
Yeah, I can. So everything you mentioned is 100% true. Like there's as a UX UI designer, I can totally see like how like the user research, real direct engagement with the users can create that trust. I think the online platforms could act as a service. So when so many participants, like citizens, put their comments in, and DIPAS can also be used as a communication tool. So city planners can use it to advertise and show the outputs based on this contributions from citizens. So what decision they made at the end, what's the output of this? So I think that constant communication with the public can create more of the trust, so they see how their participation is being used, and later on when they're ask for more and or maybe to come in person to participate in an in-person setting, they're more willing to do so because they can see that their contributions are actually being taken into account. And again, like DIPAS is a complementary tool, so it it can be even used in on-site settings. We had like this talks with different city planners in Hamburg, and they were like this particular one, their topic was parks and parks for kids, and they were like, okay, I cannot use an online tool for this because I'm talking to kids. I want them to see their interaction in the environment. How am I supposed to use this digital tool? Again, this is complementary. You can still do your field work, but this is just to record and your contribution that you're gathering. So it works both ways. And but yeah, there's always the challenge, like I think it was mentioned in the comments that there could be some mob behavior, online mob behavior. They can be abused from this online systems. But I mentioned again in the reply, the project can be run several times. So the public can react to the contributions that we've gathered, so they can have this constant communication with each other, so they can react, they could put comments there, so the discussion is ongoing, and this can act as a validation later on to see, okay, what's really important to the citizens at the moment, which challenge should be addressed first. But this is not meaning that I don't know, a comment that didn't get enough thumbs up is not gonna be studied. So I hope this answers, but I think if anyone else in the team wants to.
Can I add something, Martha?
Yeah,
I
sure.
just want to say it's also for me still very surprising that 99% of the comments of the citizens are still very productive. We don't have destructive comments, and I think it is because all processes are framed. There is a story behind it. There is a ministry in Hamburg. They conduct the workshops. So, and there's a social selection behind it. People who contribute, they really want to contribute. They want to give ideas instead of bashing or creating bubbles. So there is a difference between social media use of such tools and DIPAS still. But it could happen if they extended it even more, if they left it more open, maybe then it would also happen. But so far it's still in a way controlled, but not by us, much more by the social process that lies behind it.
Fantastic.
That's my explanation.
Thanks, Geza. Thanks, Martha. Are there any further questions? In the meantime, maybe I can also just jump in with one question, and maybe there will be. But yes, I see Marcus. Please go ahead.
How are you? Thank you for the presentation. I have a question about the project in Namibia, and kind of when the project was started, was there some kind of governmental ask that initiated the research, or was it kind of a collaborative effort into figuring out like what challenge to address? I mean, was informal housing the kind of route or whatever entry point into the research?
Yes, thanks, Marcus. I can also respond to this, and maybe Geza, you can also add, because you were there from the very, very beginning of the project. So how this project came initially, I think I mentioned that GIZ, so the German development agency, they are present in these towns. And they are focusing on the informal areas. And while working with the towns, they identified this digital and data gap and the lack of capacities. And this was how UNITAC came into the picture. And this is how we started our cooperation on that level. But actually, so our work is also focusing, or has another aspect of working with the national government, the Ministry of Urban and Rural Development, where we are supposed to support them with developing a housing information system. So there is also this branch of our collaboration. So it's on the local and on the national level. But yeah, I can also say that our project did not come, or like, we were not contacted by the towns directly, which is also making it, of course, very difficult in the beginning to establish these relationships. And also in our case, earning this trust was key. So that's where, again, these in-person interactions become super important, right? Yeah,
Right. Of course. Great. Thank you.
thank you.
Can I add something?
Jason.
Marcus, this is, of course, an important question. It's always better to go into a country when you get a request.
Yeah. Right.
In the Namibia case, there is an indirect request because we have a colonial history. We committed a genocide 100 years ago in Namibia, a horrible one. So there is constant development work in Namibia. So there is this relation between Germany and Namibia. And it was also very interesting for me to start to work there because Germany is still very, very present in Namibia. It's shocking. Right. It's shocking on one hand. On the other hand, it is like always people get along with each other. Meanwhile, they work together. There are many German companies and so on. So they are very used by Germans living there, commuting in between Berlin and Windhoek. So that's very common. And it's so I just wanted to frame that. So for us, it was quite easy to get there. They were like, yeah, there's another German research team coming now, working with us, and they are all very open, and we aligned with the government, of course, because it's a UN project and so on. But it's very special. It's very special for Germans. I always put my Swiss passport out because I'm also embarrassed to be German.
I get it. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus, for the question. Luis, please.
Yeah, hi. No, this is amazing, and congratulations for the great job. I have a question that I think is a question for the entire network, because we have a lot of very cool projects, very cool tools. We do community engagement process, but then how do we scale that with the authorities and governments to make it happen? I think that's the question that we have everywhere. I mean, I last week I was talking with Chile, with the Bio Lab, and it was like, yeah, we have this amazing connection with the community, but then the Minister of Housing or the governor, I mean, how can we, how can we make the impact and make it happen? That's the first thing, no? After the workshop, etc. And how is this when you are United Nations? I mean, I don't know if it's easier for you guys or if you have experience, or I mean, just maybe talking a little bit about that, because I think it's interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Luis. Maybe the others can also add to this. I can only talk from the perspective of the Namibia project, where, yes, that's the biggest question, right? Like, what's going to be the long-term sustainability of this project? And when we are not there anymore, who will maintain these solutions, right? Whatever we develop. And so currently what we are doing, we are in discussions with different stakeholders. So there is no solution yet, or no direct golden answer yet. But what we are doing is we are trying to identify that stakeholder who would be willing to host, for instance, this data platform that Yuming was also introducing. And we are now scoping who would be this best stakeholder and what would be the benefit for them, how to make it work for them. So we are having discussions, for instance, the Namibia University of Science and Technology, because they have the infrastructure. If it sits with them, it's also beneficial for them. It's a rather neutral organization, let's say, in this sense, so that can be one option. But then from another perspective, obviously, most ideal could be if it's somehow embedded in the ministry, right? But then that's quite a long process, many discussions, and very political. But these are the different directions we are exploring, at the moment. Geza.
Yeah, I also wanted to say something. Luis, thanks for the question. I mean, it's a world question. It's for all of us. We all invent technical tools. We are always excited about everything, all tech, the tech playground. We love it. But when you come to countries, we keep reinventing the wheel, and that's very frustrating. I mean, we all realize that. Huh? We go to a settlement, I don't know, in a country, and then people have the same questions, and then they restart again to develop a tool which is already in another country there. And I don't know how to harmonize it. We needed a good digital god, someone who's like organizing it all, and it will not happen. The world is too complex, and I think we have to live with this a little bit and not getting too frustrated. But I think one thing, what is really nice with the UN, I learned that there are a lot of disadvantages to work with the UN. But the nice thing is really that they always want to scale it up to as many countries as possible. And they have the scaling power, scaling brand. So the BEAM tool has been developed in South Africa, and we scale it now up to Central America, to 8 countries. And this is great. It's a lot of work. And you see that scaling up is also very difficult. It doesn't work because data is different, images are different, the settlements are different. But nevertheless, we try to do that. And that's good if we work with the UN. It never stays in a country.
Thank you so much. No, that's fantastic.
And what I also realized, is that there is a huge difference between companies going to countries, especially when you go to developing countries, or we as researchers, and also UN, because we have this common goal-oriented target a bit more. I mean, in the US, it's maybe a little bit different because it's a very economically driven country, but they trust us much more than they trust Microsoft or Google when they come and offer their tools. And that keeps me like going.
Thanks, Gesa. I appreciate the idea of the digital god.
It's not new. It's not new, but it's and maybe one last comment from my side, and then we stop. I think it's so interesting when we work in a humanitarian way. Let's put it that broad. You always, I think, realize that during the presentations there is so much communication and so much like setting up a collaboration, creating trust, tech and data. It really comes really at the end. So the tech impact is quite small, but there's a long way off before you can really start working with such communities. I think Dora presented it really well in her Namibia. There's a lot of design thinking in many, many workshops. It's not connected to tech at all at the beginning. And that's interesting. And also for our data, for our computer scientists like Yun Ming, Mike, they are all here in the call. I think sometimes it's frustrating for them because they want to start coding, but then there is a lot of communication which is first. And you have to go through it.
Any last thoughts for us, Dora, before we close? Just about at the top of the hour. Anything from you, Dora, or should we're all set?
Sorry, you were asking me.
No worries.
No, I was really appreciating this discussion because I think even within our lab, we don't often there are so many things going on, and we don't have the chance to update each other. So even for us, this is such a good time to share and discuss. And I was also really appreciating these questions also from Luis and Marcus, because I mean, these are things that we are also discussing almost every day in our project. Yeah, there are no golden answers, but let's see, maybe next year we can tell you more. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to everyone in the Hamburg team. Thank you, Gesa, Dora, Yuming, everyone else who presented today. We've been sharing the email addresses of these researchers, so if you want to be in touch and have more questions, please reach out to them. Otherwise, I'll be in touch soon with what's next for us, and we'll be online on June 18th to hear from the City Science Lab and Dora. So nice to see you, everyone. Thank you again from City Science Lab Hamburg.
See you
Thank
next
you so
week.
much, Maggie.
Thank you.